Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I'm your instructor Zia Hamid. I hope that you're doing well. I welcome you to English Grade 7 video lessons. My dear learners, for today we are going to deal with an SLO from the competency of writing. As you know, we are dealing with our unit number 4. The title is The Empty Pot. We have covered so many different SLOs in the previous video lessons. Now we are going to cover something from the competency of writing. And our topic will be specifically on narrative writing or writing narratives. This is our lecture number 5B. So let's read our students' learning outcome to see how we can achieve it by the end of our lesson. Our students' learning outcome is write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. So this is our students' learning outcome. What we are supposed to do is we are going to write narratives, which is a kind of writing, and we will be developing real or imagined experiences. Now, narrative writing, the style of narrative writing can be applied for both real and imagined experiences. So for fiction and non-fiction, we can use them both in narrative writing. Or events can also be included using effective techniques like descriptive details and clear event sequence. So we will be using a lot of descriptive details, and we are going to arrange our events in a sequence. So first we need to understand what is narrative and what is narrative writing. Here is a vertical linkage of this SLO with the previous grade. Now moving on with our brainstorming session for today, we are going to answer this very interesting question. So in order to storm your brains a little bit and make you think over the topic, we added a question that what are the things come to your mind when you write a story? Have you ever tried writing a story? If yes, then what comes in your mind when you're writing your journal, your events or experiences of life, or if you're generally telling a story, what do you actually do? Think over it, pause the video for a moment, come back later quickly so that we can move on. That's good. Now, let's talk about crafting or making narrative. Now, let's talk about narrative writing first. So, narrative writing is a type of writing where you tell a story. It has characters, a setting, and a plot. That includes a beginning, middle, and end. So, narrative writing is a type of writing first, and then it is where we tell our story. Now, it includes characters, your setting, and plot. All these three things. And the event sequence is that we have a beginning, the start, the middle, and also an end. So this is our basic sequence of telling any story. There's a beginning, there's a middle part, and then there's the ending part. So now, this is all about narrative writing. I hope you have got a very good idea about it. Now, let's talk about plot, which is our actual story, and it is arranged in a sequence. Let's see. So there are stages of plot. Number one is the beginning, which we also call exposition. This is the start of your story. And then you progress the story with the rising action, with the problem that you are addressing in the story, which makes it more interesting. Then you reach the middle part, right at the middle, and then you start to the resolution and you start doing the falling action, and eventually you end the story over here. Now the middle part is where your climax or the actual scene happens that turns the story over, and that is the very much important part of any plot. So this is a chart that you need to remember when you are constructing a story. When you're writing a story, you start it, it's your beginning, then you start exploring the story, introduce the characters, the different situations and problems, reach to the middle part where there's a climax, and then the story starts moving to the resolution and it ultimately ends. So this plot development, this chart is very important. You need to learn it by heart. Now, we know that there are different types of narratives. Let's look at them. So a narrative is a story with characters and there is a definite plot line. There is a story and it is arranged in a sequence which we call plot. A narrative normally has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We already talked about this. There are two types of narrative: fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is something um, which is imaginary, which is not real. You imagine it. And non-fiction is something which deals with reality. So these are the different kind of narratives. Either your narrative can be in the real world with experiences and events, or in the imaginary fictional world that is not real. So these are the two types. Now let's see, how do you select a topic for your narrative piece? When selecting a topic for a personal narrative, think about important events in your own life. If you're writing about yourself and it is a non-fictional writing, you will be, if you're writing about your personal narrative, think about the important events and things that happened in your life. Then consider your interest in sharing this story, your ability to tell the story in an effective way, and your capacity to reflect on what you learned from the experience. So, this is a personal narrative. Yes, it does have a beginning, a middle, and the end as well. So, if you want to select a topic for your own personal narrative and sharing this with the world, you need to carefully select the most important event and one of the most important experiences in your life. Next on, we have the elements of story. So all these elements are considered in a story. They are very important. Your plot, characters, setting, theme, and the conflict, the main fight between two individuals, two personals, or the main problem is which we also call a conflict. Number one is your plot, which is sequence of events. For example, you would have read the story Cinderella's life events leading to her marriage. So this is the whole plot. Now, for characters, you know individuals in the story. For example, Harry Potter, Voldemort, Hermione, all these are different individuals and characters of the story which we call Harry Potter. Now, then you talk about the setting. The setting includes your time and place. Both these two things combine and make a setting. It can be any city, any time, any era. And then for the theme part, now theme is your central message, your main idea that you're sharing. Central message, for example, the corruption of the American dream in The Great Gatsby. Now, in the novel The Great Gatsby, you could see this theme, which is very recurring. It's about American dream. Conflict is the struggle between forces, the forces of evil and good when they are coming together to fight over something. The protagonist, the hero, or the villain, which is our antagonist, now they create a conflict. There could be any conflict between them which takes your story, your plot further. Now, how do you use the technique of descriptive details? You use it to highlight all the different senses of your reader. As you write your story, remember to engage the reader's five senses. sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. In the sight part, you describe the visuals using vivid details. Vivid means which is very much in front of you and it is full of descriptive details. Hearing, in where you incorporate important sounds, and taste is where you describe flavors to immerse your reader. Smell is where you explore scents relevant to the setting. And touch is when you explain textures, temperatures, and sensations. So you would include all these different kind of descriptive details to target the 5 senses. Now let's look at this example over here. The yellow sand sparkled under the bright sun. The palm leaves rustled softly in the wind, and the salty sea air filled my nose. So if you read this example, you could see that the different senses are being targeted, and when you read it, you could actually feel that you are present at that moment. Now, let's talk about another chunk of our student learning outcome, which is about sequencing of the events and putting them in the right order. The sequence of events in narrative writing is the chronological order from ascending to descending in which the story unfolds or comes to you. This sequence helps to build a coherent and engaging narrative. You have to follow the stages of plot for the correct sequence of events. Now, we arrange our events, our plot in a very sequence order. What happens first will come first, and then what happens later will come in the next part. And not only this, but you will be looking at the stages for plot, which we discussed in one of the previous slides: the beginning, middle part, the resolution, and the end. So you will follow that sequence and create your plot in a very good sequence. Now here is your simulation video that you could watch later on to learn more about narrative writing. For your classroom activity, from page 34, you have to select a topic or theme that captivates or engages your imagination. It could be a fantasy world, a thrilling adventure, a historical event, or anything that sparks your creativity. You have to follow these instructions to create a very good narrative and follow all the rules, techniques that we discussed in our video lesson. So here's your worksheet. Attached, you can learn to plan your narrative writing using this. And for homework, you have to follow the stages of plot, to write a narrative passage on the topic visit to a magical world. And you will follow the sequence of events and also the descriptive details that targets the 5 senses of your readers. At the end, all these resources are available for your help to put your understanding into practice so that you could write better narratives from now on. My dear learners, I thank you for listening. I hope that you are very much clear about what is narrative writing, how do we create a narrative, and what is the sequence in which we make our story aligned, the plot and everything. I hope that you are very much familiar with all these things now and we have achieved our students' learning outcome. See you in the next video lesson. Allah Hafiz.